The following is a paid program by the Whitley Law Firm. Welcome to Attorneys on Call, the program that gives you free legal information from the Whitley Law Firm. Now, here's your host, Drew Smith.
Well, hey everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Attorneys on Call. It may have happened to you. I can tell you for sure it's happened to me. I was in my car and I came up to a red light. I was stopped at the intersection. The light turned green, started going through the intersection, and then boom, this lady runs a red light, slams right into me, spins me around. Police come, it's a big accident scene, but I was lucky. I walked away, I was uninjured, and I was okay. However, for many people, that's not the case, and that's why this program is here, Attorneys on Call. And in studio is Bob Whitley and Ben Whitley from the Whitley Law Firm. Guys, it's always great to be with you, and as for people that are just joining us today for the first time, they're going to learn a lot about what you do and how you represent seriously injured people. And that's why you have free DVDs that you can get simply by going to whitleylawfirm.com or calling the 800 number on your screen, and you can request one of these that Bob did for people that are seriously injured in automobile accidents. Bob, tell us a little bit about that, how you develop these free DVDs for people, and these are a great first resource for folks.
Well, Drew, it dawned on me from this show and just in my everyday practice that generally the public knows very little about what to do in regards to a serious personal injury or a serious automobile wreck. And gosh, we see so much on TV from law firms advertising and hiring this particular law firm, and probably everybody has friends and family who'll recommend this lawyer and that lawyer. So the public's kind of been on the fringe of it.
Sure.
But it's only when you really get involved in a serious wreck and sustain serious injuries that you've really got to dig in and learn yourself what you need to know. And I guess as I gained a lot of experience, I've been practicing since 1974, and I decided that I would get organized. I mean, I outlined the material that's in the DVD, and I just kind of anticipated the questions that I get asked every day on the telephone and in my office about what to do. You know, what do I do about my car? What do I do about a rental car? What do I do about these bills that are coming in? And going back to work and feeding my family? So, they're the typical things that someone, kind of unexpectedly gets faced with. So in the DVD, I attempt to address the most common areas of concern and the real big items, I would call them, that I think deserve some information about. I even spend part of that DVD talking about the process of hiring an attorney.
Okay.
Now, and I guess with time that changes, and I have to admit, I made most of that DVD many years ago, and then we kind of revamped the ending of it many years ago. So I don't want anybody to mistakenly believe when they see it that we just made it last week.
Okay.
And I don't think they'll have any problem with that.
But it's a scary situation when people are faced with something like that. And I know in my case, the next day I'm getting calls from insurance adjusters from the responsible parties insurance company.
Right.
And, luckily I did have an attorney that I could call at the time that I knew and help me walk through the whole scenario. But like I said earlier, I was not seriously injured, so it was okay. But you've got these DVDs for those folks that are seriously injured, because I can't even imagine what it must be like, Ben, when you're representing someone whose spouse or loved one is laid up in the hospital with broken bones, and it's a scary situation.
It is, and just to remind folks that you can also watch the same presentation on our website, and our website address, whitleylawfirm.com, will be on your screen periodically during this show. And I would encourage folks, if they didn't want to, I sometimes now DVDs are becoming a little bit closer to being obsolete, but if you wanted to watch the presentation on your phone or on your computer at work, that's available to you on the website at whitleylawfirm.com. But yes, the What You Need to Know series of DVDs, and we also have a DVD for workers' compensation claims, and wrongful death claims. So we have 3 in the series, and I would encourage some folks will call and ask for all 3 just to have as part of their personal library, and hopefully they would not need us. Dad mentioned about there's a portion in the DVD about how to hire an attorney and the questions to ask, and it reminds me, it was just last evening that I actually met with a family in their home, and they were interviewing attorneys, and they had a list of questions that they had for me.
Interesting.
And it was, of course, it could be intimidating. You have an entire audience of the family, and they're asking you questions on a list. And she said she had a little list, and it was just like one of those comedy shows when the list just kind of fell out on the floor.
Oh, really?
There was a lot of questions, but they were all excellent questions. One of the first questions she asked was, does your firm have a track record of going to trial?
Okay.
Yes, we do, and I think that matters. That matters in that insurance companies, workers' comp insurance companies, and automobile insurance companies, there are certain reputations that some attorneys have of whether or not they settle cases without going to trial, don't have trial experience. But I think that's an excellent question to ask, maybe even the first question to ask, because you really need to divide out the different experience levels. One of the other questions she asked, and I think these are actually still included in the DVD, and I mentioned that to her last night. I said, these are great questions. We actually have that in our DVD. Is will I be able to talk to my attorney, or do I have to just talk to a paralegal? Huge. That was number 2. That was a big concern of hers. And I told her, we've got 6 attorneys. I would say we're a medium-sized firm.
Sure.
We're not obviously not the biggest firm in North Carolina. We do have a big footprint in that we can cover the whole state from the mountains to the coast. But because of our size, we have the resources of a large firm, but we have the personal care and attention of a small firm. And I'd sometimes do this analogy for people. It's kind of like shopping at Walmart versus the boutique.
Yeah.
Both places sell clothes, but the experience is much different.
Right. Bob, when Ben talks about that and the fact that these are free resources and that you provide so much experience, when he talks about the woman who said, do you have trial experience? Well, you have a lot of trial experience. How important is that in your practice? And I know you've talked about this before, that knowing the nuances of juries and how to navigate through the courtroom is so important, and that's why you need an experienced attorney.
It is, Drew, and it's kind of, you got to keep in mind that most cases don't go to a trial. And it's more true today than it was in my early days, back in the late 70s and 80s and early 90s. I was in court almost every week with a jury trial. And that has changed drastically over the years. And I think part of it is we have in process in North Carolina court-ordered mediation, which is a process that brings all the decision makers, the claimant who's injured, their attorney, the insurance company and their attorney and the defendant, and they all come together in one place with a neutral mediator who's usually an experienced attorney himself or herself. Retired judges sometimes become mediators. And the goal there is to see if you can get the case settled. So there's a better opportunity in today's world to get cases settled before you have to get into a courtroom. But the best way to get a fair settlement is to be able to go into that courtroom. And some insurance companies, it's been said, they're familiar with some of the big firms who, whether it's justified or not, they gain a reputation of just settling everything. They have to. But there are a lot of good trial lawyers. I don't mean to suggest that we're the only good trial lawyers. I think we're mighty good, and we've got some great trial attorneys in Ann Oxner and Whitney Butcher, and you've met them. They've been on the show.
Right.
But it's almost like having nuclear bombs but not having to use them and being able to negotiate a better deal. Now, a trial's not like a nuclear bomb, but it does matter. And times have changed too, even about the way you try cases. But that could be a whole different subject.
That could be a whole show.
Ben mentioned about the question about the trial experience. While that is important, you got to keep in mind that most cases do get settled. And even in your case, you know, you had your attorney friend you could call.
Right.
And I think even when you're not seriously injured, you need to get information.
Absolutely, I needed that.
What do you do
Yes.
about your car?
Right.
And, you know, what's going to happen? And you were able to get that. And we find ourselves providing similar information all day long on the phone. But when you get seriously injured, and in the video or in the DVD, that's how far I go back, I talk about, well, what is a serious injury? And I think it's an injury that's going to keep you in the hospital overnight.
Okay.
It's going to maybe require surgery.
Okay.
Any brain injury,
sure.
a mild brain injury is a serious injury.
Concussion, something like that. Yeah.
Any spinal injury is definitely a serious injury. And any injury that alters the quality of your life going forward. Perhaps it leaves you with a limp. You fracture your ankle or your wrist or something that leaves a residual effect on you so that your quality of life is not as good as it should have been or would have been. But getting back to the attorney, hiring the attorney, that Ben recently asked about access to the attorney. That is so important. When you hire a lawyer, you're going to have to sit down with that lawyer and share the most personal parts of your life because they deal with your medical history and the injuries here. And for us to be your advocate and to talk to that insurance company just like you could, and we're your mouthpiece, we speak for you, we've got to know everything about you and every way that injury has affected your life. And we can read medical records and we can talk to our clients, but our clients know best about how an injury has affected them.
Whitley Law Firm, representing people all across the state of North Carolina. You're watching Attorneys on Call. We're back in just a moment.